Welcome back to FM Storey. We're into the run-in to season 11 of our Save with Sporting. We're looking to win our 10th successive title, which is only a mere matter of games away. We're about to wrap up that title. We do have quarter-final Champions League to come, so hopefully we can progress even further in that. And we've got the second leg of the Tac de Portugal final, so there's a possibility of winning 3 trophies in this episode to end season 11. Without further ado, let's see what happens. We're into the beginning of May, and basically April was, let's say, an eventful month. As you can see, we've got a second leg semi-final coming up away at Anfield against Liverpool. So things have gone really quite well in the Champions League, although there's been a few up and down moments as well. We started with an away game against Famalicão, where we could have won the title. In the end, we were abysmal and came away with a 1-0 defeat. So that put the title celebrations on hold. We were then at home to Dortmund in the first leg of the quarterfinal and basically blew them out of the water. Came away with a 5-0 victory in the first leg, which, given how the second leg went, was just as well. We were then at home to Gondomar and were able to wrap the title pretty comfortably with a 2-0 victory. However, we did give Guilherme, who we signed from Flamengo in January, his debut, and he got sent off after 8 minutes. So that didn't go particularly well. But we weren't under any real threat, and once we took the lead, it was pretty much game over. We then went into the second leg away at Dortmund and got off to a decent start. We were 2-0 up after 20 minutes. Then one of our former players scored 2 goals to level the game. And then we went 3-2 up just before half-time. They pulled it back on half-time to make it 3-3. They scored in the first minute of the second half to make it 4-3, and then 5-3, and then we did pull a goal back in injury time to make it 5-4. Luckily, we were had we not had such a big lead from the first leg, I think I would have been slightly concerned, and it does concern me slightly going into the second leg against Liverpool. But in the end, we were pretty comfortable over the 2 ties. We then went away to Vicente in the league and took the lead twice, only to throw it away twice, and ended up drawing 2-2. We were then at home to Maritimo in the second leg of the Tac de Portugal semi-final. We'd won the first one 2-0. Another comfortable performance, 3-0 up at half-time, 1-4-0, 6-0 on aggregate. Sees us through to the final where we'll play Braga. We were then at home to Rio Ave in the league. Another pretty comfortable 2-0 victory. First leg against Liverpool, we were pretty good in the first half, created loads of chances. We were 2-0 up just after half-time. They pulled a goal back on the hour, and then we went 3-1 up, and we've looked at hopefully the 2-goal advantage is enough. But we know we're going to need to play better in the second leg than we did in the second leg in Dortmund. And then in the most recent game, we went away to Casapia in the league and drew 1-1. Not the best performance. And we're going to need to massively up the levels for this second leg against Liverpool. So going into the second leg, we've picked the same team that we picked in the first leg. We've brought Kimo Kamara back into the defence in place of Benavides over recent weeks, just because Benavides' form's just tailed off a bit at the end of a long first season in the squad. Otherwise, it's the same team that's been our first choice team most of the season. Looking at the Liverpool team, they do have one of our former players in David Rivera on the bench. They do also have Valentin Carboni, who was outstanding for us for a couple of seasons before he got his big money move to Liverpool. He got injured in the first leg, but they've got plenty of players there that could cause us some serious bother. They did play with a back 3 in the first leg of Simakan, Timber and Rice, which looks like they're going to play again. But hopefully we've got enough about us, and hopefully that 2-goal advantage is good enough to help us through to the final. Not an awful lot happening early on in this game, nothing really in the first 15-20 minutes here. The longer that goes on, the better. Right, they've got a throw down their left. Vasquez back to Declan Rice. Rainsford, Bellingham. Into the box. Was he offside? Yeah. Right, Arda with a free kick, swings it in. Kamara loses the header. And Rooney Bargy breaking down the left-hand side for them. Vasquez. Right, we've nicked. No, they've managed to keep a hold of it. Timber bringing it out from the back. Rice to Vasquez. Bassiola gets a half challenge on him, but it still comes out to Rice on the edge of the box. And that hit the roof of the net, but went over. Minion goes long. Felix and acres of space. What a goal. What a calamitous bit of defending and goalkeeping. But that is the perfect start that we could have had to this semi-final. Minion with a long goal kick. Centre half, so I'll leave it. The keeper half comes for it. Felix takes it on his chest and just casually lifts it over the keeper into the back of the net. And that puts us 4-1 up on aggregate. Right, Alotabi down the left-hand side. Into Simovic. Gets to the byline. And he shoots. The keeper saves it. Goes just out to Arda. And now they've cleared. Mbappe with a corner from the left. Nyanzi at the near post. Is it getting disallowed? Surely not. So, Mbappe's corner. Nyanzi, we didn't start the half the best, but we've ended it pretty well. We've got the goal that we needed. Slice of luck with the way they defended that. But we've got a 3-goal advantage on aggregate going into the second half. Should hopefully be enough to see us through to the final. Right, we made one change at half time. We brought Delibas on for Alatabi, who was struggling, and we've moved Asimovic back to left back. Right, if we can have a second half that starts the same way the first half did, with nothing happening for 15-20 minutes, that would be ideal. Right, Timber goes back to the keeper, out to Declan Rice. Felix nicks it off him. Goosens is in behind Timber. There we have it. 2-0 on the night. 5-1 on aggregate. If we don't make the final here now, something's gone horrendously wrong. Slack ball by Timber. Felix takes a couple of touches and then just slides it between Timber and Rice. For Goosens to run onto, and he just smashes it past the keeper. Right, they're really not a threat. The game's sort of petered out a bit since we got that second goal. Right, Vasquez into Nonto, who goes down the outside. Forces Minion into a great save. Turn it behind for a corner. Now, problem is we've got a very small team here, so I wouldn't be surprised if we concede. Nyanzi manages to get his head on it. Carvalho picks up the loose ball. Back to Rice. Bellingham can't hit the target. Right, Rice bringing the ball forward. Dewsbury Hall to Vasquez. Nonto into Rivera. He's in the box. And Minion makes a great save. Right, João Felix goes back to Asimovic. Kamara to Arrowsmith. They've won it back. But surely it's too late for them to do anything now. We've got a 4-goal advantage. Simakan into Bellingham. Looks over the top for Nonto. He's in the box. Squares it for Rivera, who hits the post. Kamara somehow controlled it, dallied on the ball. And then Carvalho tackled him to put the ball in the back of the net. Nonto gets over the top. Pulls it back to Rivera, whose shot hits the base of the post. Kamara, rather than clearing, just touches it. And then Carvalho just nudges it in. Thankfully, we've got a big enough advantage on aggregate that that's not going to cost us dearly. Right, Kamara wins the ball. Bellingham's got it. Spreads it to Vasquez. It crosses. We've managed to hit it clear. Arrowsmith to Mbappe. Looking over the top for Arda. Went to square it, but a poor pass. And now Carvalho's in the box. And that's 2-2 on the night, 5-3 on aggregate. I mean, hopefully they are running out of time because we're just about to enter injury time. We've now only got the 2-goal advantage. And there we have it. The end of the match, 2-2 draw. We've thrown the actual game away a bit in that second half, but in the end, we've won 5-3 in aggregate, and we've made it to a second Champions League final of the save. Can we win the Champions League for the second time with Sporting? We've made it to Champions League final day, where we're playing against Chelsea in Berlin. The league season ended with a bit of a whimper, considering how it had all started. After the Liverpool game, we won away 2-1 at Tondela. We then were home to Estoril, where we won 4-1, and then on the last day of the season, we were at home to Braga, where we drew 1-1. We do still have the Taça Portugal final to come the following week, the week after the Champions League final. At one point, it did look like they were going to schedule us the Champions League final on the 28th and the Taça Portugal final on the 29th. But thankfully, they saw sense and moved it. The unfortunate thing, as well, for the players, is that given we qualified for the final of Champions League, we qualified for the FIFA Club World Cup, which starts on the 13th of June. Now, presumably that's the play-in round. That's the preliminary round is the 13th of June. The group stage starts on the 16th of June. So basically, we're going to have the Champions League final today. We've got the Taça Portugal final on the 4th of June. And then less than 2 weeks later, we've probably got a game in the Club World Cup. So they're not going to get much rest this summer, but we'll need to see what we can do. So this is the team we're going into the Champions League final with. We're going with the same team that started both legs of the semi-final. Obviously, that's a pretty decent Chelsea team. Roger Rennie is a player that we would have loved to have signed at various points during the save. And we just don't have anywhere near the kind of cash that would have been required, both in terms of transfer fee and in terms of wages. But hopefully we can get off to a decent start and put them under pressure, like we did in the first leg against Liverpool, like we did in the first leg against Dortmund. Right, very, very little happening early on in this game. No highlights in the first 20 minutes. They've got a corner. We managed to hit it clear. Nianzou lumps it a bit further forward, but Guardiola's bringing it back for them. It puts Hudson-Odoi in the box. And that was just not good. I mean, if you look at the stats, it's very much with the runner play, but first highlight and we concede. Guardiola into Hudson-Odoi, gave him far too much time, and no one tracked the run from Reece James. Alright, Bassioli with the throw. Arda picks it up in the box. It hits Goossens and goes in, but I think he was standing in an offside position. Don't think this is going to count. Yeah. It's slack defending by them. We just need to take these chances. And he was just, got himself in the way. He'll probably go in if it didn't hit him. Right, Nianzou spreads it to Simovic. Down the line to Mbappe. He's in behind the fullback. Back to Simovic into the box. Goossens. Oh, he's hit the post. Botic turns it home, but was he offside? Two goals disallowed for offside. This is starting to look like it's not our day. Yeah, Botic was well offside there. Time's rapidly running out though. As far as the Champions League is concerned, it's probably just a game too far. We just weren't good enough on the night. They took the chance when it came. We couldn't stay on sides or take the chances that we had. But we still have the chance of another trophy. We've got the Taça Portugal coming up, and then obviously the players that aren't getting any rest this summer, we've got the Club World Cup coming up as well. it's now time for the end of season review. And as we can see, we've ended the season with 3 trophies. We've ended the season with the league. We've ended it with the Taca to Portugal. And we've ended it with the Super Taca. In terms of the new signings, this season, most of the signings that we've made have really hit the ground running. Obviously, Kylian Mbappe on a free transfer. Outstanding. Played 46 games in total, scored 30 goals, 22 assists, 7.77 average rating. You can't really beat that at all. And then obviously, we also signed João Felix on a free transfer. 44 games in total, 14 goals, 11 assists. And again, a really decent average rating. We also signed a load of young players. Now, the one that really stood out was Miguel Ferreira. The board was disappointed with the amount of money we spent, but he's ended up playing, for a 16-year-old, he ended up playing 24 games. He scored 4 goals, 5 assists, average rating 7.24. Really couldn't ask for anything more than that. Also in the summer, we'd signed Alotebi as their first choice left back. He's had a few injury problems, but by and large, he's been pretty solid there. In January, we went big with Yun Suzuki. And he is more with an eye to eventually moving Arda on, because he's a couple of years younger. But when he's been called upon, he's done well. He's got 10 assists in all competitions. 5 of those were in the Taca de Portugal, which got him the most assists in that competition. And then Milos Bortic, who we signed in January, beginning of January, played 32 games in total, got 31 goals. Just an out-and-out goal scorer. And if it wasn't for Goossens being so good and being really the first choice, he would have played a lot more and probably scored a lot more goals as well. In terms of the outbound transfers, we moved quite a lot of players, quite a lot of experienced players on in summer. We moved on Pedri, we moved on Guilherme Santos, Anthony Ruel, Lennon Moreira. I mean, basically, we got a load of money in for a lot of players in the summer, and then in January we sold Constantine Klim as well, which was a shame because he's been outstanding since he came in, but he had 18 months left on his contract, and at that point he was adamant he wasn't signing a new contract, and we didn't think that it would have that much of an impact on the team if we moved him on. We'd signed replacements in that position, and they've all done pretty well. So, as far as the league's concerned, they expected us to win it. We did. The expanded stadium with a new record capacity. Milos Bortic, despite when he signed him in January, ended up being the top scorer in the league for us. We ended up with 91 points, a goal difference of plus 104. And we only conceded maybe 10 goals, 15 goals at most. Champions League, we're expected to reach the latter stages, which turned out to be the quarter-final they were expecting us to reach. We ended up as runners-up. Maurice Goossens ended up being the top goal scorer in the Champions League. Kylian Mbappe was the player of the Champions League. Jack Harrismith was the young player of the Champions League. We basically took most of the awards as far as the Champions League was concerned this season. Taca to Portugal, obviously the board expected us to win. We did win. Pretty comfortable all the way through. We weren't really in any trouble at any point apart from the final against Braga. We came out 4-2 victors. They took the leads. We pulled a goal back, went ahead just after half time. They pulled a goal back almost immediately, and we did struggle a bit in the second half. But eventually we did come away with a 4-2 victory. Milos Bortic got all 4 goals in that game. As far as the Allianz Cup's concerned, they wanted us to be competitive. We made the semi-final before. Unfortunately, we lost on penalties to Porto. That was one of those wild games, though. We were 3-0 down after 15 minutes. It was 3-3 after about half an hour. We went 4-3 up, they equalised, and then we lost 7-6 on penalties. Super Taca, we won comfortably against Famalicão. And then we still have the Club World Cup to come. And we'll have to see what happens with that. Biggest win was the one early on in the season at home to Ferenc, where we won 9-0. Match to remember was a league phase game in the Champions League against Man City. I would have thought the 5-0 victory over Dortmund or beating Liverpool in the semi-final, but that's a strange one. And the goal of the season was Botic with a 25-yarder in February against Pacos de Ferreira. Finance-wise, sponsorships down and broadcast revenues down slightly. Everything else is up. And financially, things are looking... At one point during the summer, it looked like we were going to be struggling with financial fair play, but moving on all the players that we did and bringing in some younger players had a positive effect. And obviously, with how well we've done in all the competitions this season, it's had an impact as well in terms of prize money. The prize money's gone up from 59.4 million to 91 million. We did start playing the 4-3-3, but then we've gone back to the 4-2-3-1, which kind of suited the attacking players we had better. And that's pretty much mostly the team we would have played, although Bassioli's probably been the standout right back, I would have thought. But otherwise, it's pretty much what we would consider our best team. Fans player of the season was Mbappe. Young player was Goossens. Signing of the season, Mbappe. Maurice Goossens got 40 goals in all competitions this season. Mbappe, 22 assists. It's just outstanding. Miguel Ferreira, for a 16-year-old, had the most passes completed per 90 minutes. Was the youngest goal scorer as well. And overall, a decent season that could have been an awful lot better. Just for a couple of rubs of the green. Had gone our way. And there we have it, the end of another episode, the end of another season. And as we said, it hadn't been for a couple of the rubs of the green going the wrong way, losing penalties to Porto in the Allianz Cup semi-final, those 2 disallowed goals in the Champions League final. It could have been so much better. But 3 trophies, can't really complain about that. And just need to keep on this great run of, that's 10 titles in a row now. And we just need to keep going. Obviously, we've got the Club World Cup coming up next. That'll be a separate episode on its own. And then we'll get started with Season 12. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.